Today, I'm going to predict the future. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in the Pokemon market, and this applies to stocks too. This is what always happens, and if you understand it, it will help you guide your next moves so that you aren't filled with so much uncertainty. So, markets always move in predictable cycles over a long enough time frame. It's not random chaos. In the short term, that's might be what it looks like. So there's going to be four phases, right? Initially, things are kind of steady for a new IP. And then there's probably some excitement as it gets more popular. That's kind of the run up. And then when people start realizing, oh, hey, this IP is like so popular, there's something called like a peak euphoria section. So it's going to start aggressively coming up. This is where a lot of new collectors, more people are starting to come in. This is the OGs, people that are there from day one. They are believing in it and buying it when no one else is really looking at it. And then this is when everyone else starts coming in. So you're going to go kind of parabolic straight up. And then at some point, the market's going to resist. People are not going to like these new prices, and there's going to be a crash or a correction. After a crash or a correction, we're going to hit a bottom where people think, hey, this is actually a really good buying opportunity. This is way cheaper than it was. And then people are going to start buying and selling, buying and selling. And this is something called a consolidation. And you see the line gets more and more narrow as it consolidates. And then at this point, this is a pivotal moment. Are we having higher lows or are we having lower highs? It could go either way. If a company or a stock has done a good job at producing its product or marketing or all the things that make IP or stock popular or do well, it could either start running up again or it could go down. It could also go sideways for a long time, but generally that's not what happens. Just due to factors like inflation, demand, population, things for a successful IP or the prices of a successful IP generally will continue to go up, or it'll go down and fail because other IPs have entered the market and they're squeezing them out. Going perfectly sideways is less likely. And again, we are still looking, even this could happen within a couple years or 5 years or even 10 years. It's not that long of a time frame. This could happen, let's say, around 5 years. So right now, we are experiencing one of these again. And this has happened time and time and time again of the market. When you zoom out, let's say this was only 2 years. But if you look at a 10-year life cycle, that kind of just looks like this. That's it. Once you go big enough, like all these little ups and downs, the spikes and flows, it kind of looks like this. And you'll see a lot of things just kind of look like this. That's really it. That sums it up. Over a long enough time period, assuming that Pokemon does its job and it continues to be really popular and people start buying in and there are periods that it cools down, it's going to come down. The only thing I can't tell you is that I don't know when. But at some point, all of this money pouring in, people are going to want to take profits. And people are already taking profits right now. But because there's been a lot of new buyers in the market in the recent 1 and 2 years, they're not going to be willing to sell until they're happy with the amount of profits they made. So who knows exactly how long that will last. At the end of the day, if you stretch out the time period enough, you can always predict the future. For us as humans, we don't live forever. So there will be a day that we die. And at some point, these people that bought it, they want to make their money before they die. And then most investors, collectors will want to do this a couple of times, right? Some people are more aggressive and we call them flippers. They do it on a 1 day, 1 week time scale. And then we have the swing traders, people that take years to realize some profits. And then we have the really long-term investors, people that wait 5, 10, 20 years before they take profit because they don't want to spend all of this time trading or they have other businesses. And we have all types of these people in the Pokemon market. So that's why you see these ebbs and flows, these ups and downs, because in the short term, people are trying to make money. On the medium term, people are trying to make money. And in the long term, people are trying to make money. The Pokemon market is definitely going to correct when the medium and long term people decide, like, hey, we want to take profits. So let's say we are, this is the final graph I'm going to draw, we are about here, right? Let's say we're just here. We're going to come down. At some point in the next 1, 2, 3 years, maybe 5 years, who knows, but we will come down. But the low will be higher than the previous lows, and we'll go up again. And a new phase will start. Once there's like a really hyped up set, we'll hit a peak and we'll come down again. There will be a crash / correction, whatever you want to call it. But the new low will be higher than the previous low, and it'll go up again. And maybe one day, Pokemon does something really bad, or they become really unpopular, something about their name brand, it's tarnished, or there's some other IP called Dukumon or something, it's just way more popular than Pokemon, and then Pokemon goes all the way down, and it becomes usurped. But when will this happen? Is this going to happen in the next 10, 20 years? I think it's very unlikely. When you compare it to something like, let's say, Disney, if somebody is telling you guaranteed that they believe Pokemon or Disney will be around forever, don't listen to them. There's no way you can predict the future like that. That's just implausible. Even companies that have been around for a long time and we think will be around forever, they could disappear at some point. There's no guarantee that a company is going to be around forever. Something like Sears used to be a mainstay in shopping, and they're gone. People thought they would be around forever. They were like the Walmart or Amazon before Walmart and Amazon were even here. They literally sold everything. How did they go suddenly completely bankrupt and are just not around anymore? Even things we see as institutions that will never go anywhere, like Apple or Google, they could potentially be usurped by a young, hot startup, 10, 20, 50, 100 years in the future. Again, who knows, but that's possible. So I'm saying the chance that Pokemon could disappear, it's not zero. Nothing is ever zero. The world could end tomorrow. The chance of that happening is not zero. A meteor could strike. But what's the probability of that? Now that is when I think the probability of Pokemon being around for the next 10, 20, 50 years is incredibly high. I would say 99% it will be around. At 100, 200 years, maybe that starts to tick down. But if you look at how strong the IP is, how good of a job they're doing with these new sets, I would say it's very, very unlikely. So when people say that there's risk investing in Pokemon, of course there's risk investing in Pokemon. Anyone that tells you otherwise is being dishonest. There's risk in living. There's risk in walking on the road. There's risk in driving your car. It's all about calculating your risks and what's the probability that you can find success investing in Pokemon. And I think investing in Pokemon is still currently one of the best assets in modern times, especially as we have these digital currencies, this digital world that feels more and more intangible, and then the lure of having something physical that actually has intrinsic value because people enjoy it versus holding something like cash or even gold. When people hold gold, it's not because, people say there's a ton of utility in gold, and there is some utility in the actual physical element of gold, but for most people, it's just a store of value. Versus Pokemon, it's something you can actually enjoy. And then with sealed product, it's like a whole entertainment system in one. That is utility. In a world where AI is probably going to take bulk of our jobs, what are we going to do with all of our free time? Collecting actually gives a lot of people purpose. It makes people really happy. It brings a lot of joy, and that's utility. It's a physical asset, and I think that this is just something that everyone is waking up to. That's why the market is being pumped, from whether it's collectors to just families to also investors. Everyone can see the opportunity here. And at some point, I'm telling you, it's going to correct. It's going to crash. But the likelihood that it's going to continue to grow in the long term, I think, is very high as people continue to enjoy the hobby. And Pokemon is just doing a great job of pumping out sets that people want. And until Pokemon fails at that, then it's going to be around for a little bit. Anyways, I hope that helped. I know it's a little bit rambly, but these are my thoughts. These are my predictions. And let me know what you think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off base. If I'm missing something, I want to know. Thanks.